All right, Patreon folks, we are back. This is Kevin, the voiceless one. I got my partner in crime, Mr. Ian Howard. Ian, congratulations to the Raptors, man.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna go 7. I really did. I thought the Raptors were gonna win, but I just didn't see how they would uh, beat the Warriors in the last game in Oracle. But Clay's knee disagreed with me,
Yeah,
so
man, bro.
yeah, that was a done deal when that happened.
Yeah, and me and Ian were just talking, guys, and we both agree, like, you feel a little bit cheated as a fan that Clay went out because I feel like they were like relatively. I think the Raptors were. This is crazy. I think the Raptors were a better team with Clay because they just had been playing better, I guess. But man, I just feel like the series had so much more. Then he went out and just that sucks, man. But hey, Golden State Warriors, don't offer Clay the max. Let him come to New Orleans. We'll gladly take him off your hands. I'm just saying, that boy a dog, man.
Yes, yes, yes.
Man, but we ain't here to talk about no basketball. We're here to talk some football. You guys gave us some questions this week. We got about 7. So we're gonna run through them and we're gonna let the conversation go where it may. So with that said, we're gonna get started. First question is from Tony. Tony says the option wasn't picked up for Eli Apple, since it was 13.7 million. I agree that was too much for him. If he improves his play from last year, would you offer him a contract next year? And how much for a number 2 corner? Ian, you are the leadoff hitter since you're a baseball fan.
This is a really good question, actually, and I've spent some time thinking about this internally. If he improves his play by a lot, he's going to get too expensive for the Saints to afford.
Don't be too good this year, Eli Apple.
Yeah, no, I mean, if he plays like a top 10 pick and shows steady improvement as well as, some even more ball skills, maybe he gets 3 or 4 picks, it's going to be hard to afford him. Those guys make 11 to 14 million dollars on a team with cap space. I mean, he's only 23, 24, maybe 25. So he'll be in the peak of his career on his next contract. But if he just plays at a very solid level and is going to be a number 2 corner, I still think he is in that 10 million a year range. Just because of the nature of the position and where the market is right now. But we will have to see, man. It's either he's going to play himself into a lot of money or he's going to play himself in a position to where, he has a solid paycheck, even if it's not top of the market or anywhere remotely close to the top of the market, I should say.
Yeah, that's a good point. You make good points. I think I would. It's just so tricky because his variance of play is wide. Like, there's snaps where he looks like the top 10 pick that he was. And the physical skill sets are there, right? You don't teach 4-4 movement like that with that speed, that height. It's just you got it, you don't. And so, you see the physical skill sets, the physical skill set, and that's there, but man, he just has to be more consistent, right? And that's not something that he's been, throughout his career. He had a good year at the start, and then he kind of had a down year with some crazy stuff happened. And then, so you just kind of want to see who the real player is. And it's hard to evaluate, what a contract would look like for Eli Apple, again, with that high variance in his play. So if he, if he's a middle of the road number 2 cornerback, man, I would just need to look up some. I would need to look up some contracts, but I guess 10 million is a number 2 cornerback salary now with the way that the salary cap is increasing. That still feels like a little rich, though. I mean, yeah, it's just tricky, man. I could definitely see him being one of those guys that they put on a 1-year deal again just to kind of see what he has. But then again, other teams are in the equation too. So, he's in a position where he, can succeed, right? He has a good team around him. He has a good locker room. So if he's not successful this year, it's his fault because, his fault is wrong, but he's in a position to succeed. So what the contract will be, I don't know. But what I consider giving him a contract if he plays well this year, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think good corners are hard to find. If you find one, you better keep him in your locker room. So
And it's really tough to gauge when you have slot guys, starting at $5 million a year. Someone like
the
PJ
more kid from the Colts, yeah,
exactly.
520. I think he got a 520.
Then you had a couple guys making like $7 to $8 million a year to be a slot. If you go back a couple years ago, I think Eric Rowe made some money when he left the Patriots. There's, Byron Maxwell is a perfect example of being a free agent after a very solid year in Seattle. And, I'm sure Miami still regrets that deal. So
terrible deal.
It's just all about what you do that last year before you hit the market, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Saints they'll be smart about that. I don't think, because here's the deal, right? You can't afford to overpay Eli Apple. You just can't. Mike Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Ryan Ramczyk, Sheldon Rankins, Marshawn Lattimore, right? I mean, these guys are going to be coming up, right? DeMario Davis contract will be up a couple of years. Cam Jordan's got a big cap hit. Drew Brees dead money. Marcus Williams will be coming up. Von Bell, it's like you got to figure out how you're going to divide this pie. David Onyemata, right? You can just go through the roster and look at the guys who are good players and who, will require somewhat of a salary. And, I could just see it being a really hard case for them to make to themselves about paying him a lot of money. So, I would like to see him stay a Saint if he plays well and he, has a good year, but I definitely think they need to tread carefully because they're, you got more important guys on your roster who gonna need that contract.
Agree.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question, Tony. That was a good one. You sparked a little conversation there. We could have made that a whole topic. Next question from Byron Tatman. Yeah, I said that right, man. All right, it's a little bit of a long question. I'm definitely letting Ian go first. Given that we seem to have more legit options at tight end, I'm not sure I'm buying that yet. Now, both in terms of seasoned vets and projects, does it make sense to quit pretending that Dan Arnold is a tight end and let him play that coasting role at wide receiver? I don't mean he's going to play the number one role. I mean a tall wide receiver running the seam route from the slot. His size and speed are in the same ballpark. His hands need to get better. I'm going to put a definitely need to get better if he wants to make any roster. So what's your take on that, man?
They do have obviously the huge addition in Jared Cook. They do have the project in Alize Mack. And then they got some production from, I believe, Garrett Griffin to end the year last year. Obviously, they extended Josh Hill.
Man, that's just sadness.
Yeah, it is. I don't think Dan Arnold does anything well enough to have him switching between multiple positions. I think he needs to worry about making the roster however he can. I think it's going to be a little tough sledding for him. I think Griffin and Mack are his biggest competitors. And then if you're trying to convert him into a bigger slot, you're still worrying about Kirkwood, who has made it clear that he's aiming to play in a slot. A third of Rashard Matthews' production the last couple of years has come out of the slot. Obviously, Mike goes in there in big situations to get the matchups dictated. And then you also have to keep in mind that Jared Cook is probably going to spend some time in there either at the inline tight end or sometimes offset, still in that same slot area. So I'm struggling to see how Arnold makes the field other than major injuries, to be completely honest.
Yeah. The first thing that I thought about when I read this question was if he has trouble beating safeties and linebackers, how's he going to beat cornerbacks? I don't think that he has some athleticism. I'll give him that. I'm not sure if it's more straight line or not. Maybe you can comment a little bit more on that. I think you may be a little bit more familiar with, with his physical skill set than I am. But, I think that him playing wide receiver, one, he's a young player. Two, people have to learn a new position. And I will concede the point that tight end is one of those positions that's hard for young guys to learn. I think it's maybe a little bit harder on wide receiver because your assignments are, you got to block in the run game, you got to block in the pass game, and then you're moved all around the formation in the pass game. And it's just it's a lot that goes with playing that position. So I'll concede that, but I think they see him as a tight end. I think that was the vision, when they signed him as an undrafted free agent and moved him to tight end. And so I think if he's going to make the roster, he's going to make it there. I think you made another good point too, Ian, where you says, Alizé Mack. I think you made this point back when we drafted Alizé Mack, and we were talking about the draft when one of the post-draft pods was that's the training camp battle right there. So I think he just has to hold his course at the tight end position and beat the guys in front of him. And it's probably a little bit of an uphill battle, but I definitely don't. I know we see guys that's big and they are not super fast, and we look at it and say, "Oh, that can be Marcus Colston." But Colston had a really good. Colston was a good player. He just wasn't a big guy that run down the middle of the field and Drew Brees put the ball in the right place. He was actually a really savvy route runner. So yeah, I think good question, Byron. But I think I think Dan Arnold has to kind of cut it at tight end at this point.
I pulled up his workout metrics.
Okay.
Ran a 4.68, which is in the 76th percentile for his position.
Okay.
His speed score was 93.3, which is 38 percentile, not too good. His burst score was 132.6, which would have put him in the 97th percentile of all tight ends. Wow. Agility score was 11.11, which would be 93rd percent. And his catch radius, which is shocking, is 10.35, which would have put him in a 94th percentile. So I understand why the Saints held on to him for a year and they gave him every opportunity, because if you just look at sheer workout numbers, he does move at 6'6" like a big wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I get it, but he just came up small in so many spots.
You're winning the Super Bowl. If you're playing in the Super Bowl, if Dan Arnold catches that pass,
man. So he would need to have a huge camp and a huge preseason, I think, to make the team.
Or like you said in your first response, hopefully not an injury.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question. Thanks for the question, Byron. That was a good question. James Fitzpatrick, at this present time, do you see any positions that you are concerned about and we need to upgrade? If so, whom do you recommend?
We've talked about this in previous pods.
Yeah.
I think we both feel that we're one short at DN. They seem really content at D tackle.
Yeah. I agree there.
So I think they're short a pass rusher, preferably outside pass rusher, if I had to guess. And I think they're still, even though they continue to say it's not an issue, I still think there's some uncertainty at the wide receiver position. They have 13 bodies at the position. after they cut Travin Durrell and signed Rashard Matthews,
who might be the number 2 day one.
Right, and I think that's a concern when you have a guy, a proven guy on a tryout basis, and all 3 days of mini camp, his name is littered across most of the, I wouldn't even say highlights, but you're seeing much more positive. You're seeing his name. Oh, Matthews got some first team snaps. Oh, Matthews, great back shoulder with Drew. Oh, Matthews, up the sideline, beat this guy for a touchdown with Drew Brees. This guy was literally, in his recliner a week ago. And yet we're already having visions that, damn, and this guy might be our number 2 receiver. I think that is a huge indictment on the wide receiver position for this team.
Yeah, I think I know. I think you make good points, and I know I agree with that. Just rewinding, you and I, we've been pretty vocal about them needing maybe some depth at the defensive end spot with pass rushers. I know they signed, what's his name? Wes Horton, is that his name? I think the defensive end that they signed to kind of, I don't want to say replace Alex Okafor, but to add to the defensive line depth. That name doesn't super get anyone excited, but he is a veteran and, he's played in this league. So, you just hope Davenport stays healthy. You hope he improves his game, which I feel pretty good about Davenport. I'll be honest, pass rushers take time to become good pass rushers. We talk about how good Cam Jordan is right now, but his rookie year, he was pretty much a dominant run stopper. He wasn't. I don't think he had a sack his first year. Did he?
He didn't. Yeah. The only one he had was against Cam Newton, but there was like a penalty with illegal hands to the face on the other side of the field, and it was taken away from him.
Your memory is retarded. I'm sorry. Excuse me, guys. That's the wrong word. Yeah, you got a really good memory. Your memory is. I mean, we do pods, and I'll be thinking how the heck did he remember that? I'm sitting trying to YouTube it while we're recording to just recall what you're saying, man. Your memory is good, dude. I need one of those.
I've been playing that Wordscapes game. I figure like as I'm getting older, I'm starting to lose my keys more and more often around the house or around the hotel, wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I need to keep my mind a little short.
I hear you, man. Yeah. Again, yeah. Sorry for that word. That's not appropriate. But yeah. And so I definitely think that Davenport will take a step up, and I'm not pessimistic about the pass rush, though I am worried about the inside. I think they'll be able to field a good defense. I think the secondary will probably have to carry the load a little bit more this year, specifically at the start. But right now, I'm with you. I think you look at the wide receiver spot and you say, okay, well, thank goodness that they signed Jared Cook, because, man, keep him healthy, because, you're in the passing game. You really don't have a lot of weapons other than him and Mike Thomas. But I do think they're starting to add some dimensions. I think Rashard Matthews, when he was a free agent from Miami, I thought he was a really good player. He was someone I wanted the Saints to look at the year he was a free agent. And he was with the Jets for the end of last year, I think it was. And maybe not much happened there, but he had a decent showing in Tennessee. So, totally different quarterback, totally different system. I think he's a smart player. Like you said, he has some production off the slot. So I think it's good that they signed him. I think that the Cam Meredith situation is just looking worse and worse by the day. He said that it's nothing. He just want to be ready for training camp. I'm like, okay. So yeah, I think we both agree that the wide receiver, but maybe even take it a step further and just say skill position, right? If they added Duke Johnson or something, I'm not sure what other names are out there, but is there someone else who maybe can step in and, I don't know. I don't know if Duke works. I don't know if he feels that position though, because he's just another speller for Kamara. I definitely think it has to be wide receiver or tight end. So those would be the two positions that I would look at if they were to add some areas to kind of shore up the defense a little bit. And offensive tackle is a sneaky one too. Who's the backup? Yeah, Marshall Newhouse. Yeah, he's taking.
Yeah, that's probably it. Now that you say that,
Yeah.
I think they've shown that they can find a way to move the ball with random guys, but I didn't think about that. That backup tackle situation is rough.
Yeah, it's very rough. And where's Bushrod? Is he retired or is he just waiting for training camp?
I know he took a visit with another team, but he didn't sign.
Right. And maybe the Saints don't want him, which is weird because I thought he played well enough to be a backup in his league last year. But yeah, so we'll see. But hey, I will say this though. We are talking about depth guys that we need. Now the wide receiver position is a little tricky, but for the most part, we're saying these guys need depth in these positions, which goes to show some of the talent on the roster. Just having good, we're not saying starters where we're saying, hey, need a backup in these positions. So that bodes well for the team as a whole. All right, let's see, man. We only on the fourth question. That's how we rocking, man. Dylan, that's my man. What do you think Sean sees in Austin Carr that most of us are missing? Future politician.
Yeah. This will be a quick one to make up for Austin.
The smartest man on the roster, apparently. I don't know. He was
maybe had a nice beard. So I don't know. I'm completely confused on this one. And you know what? I'm sure as I say this, I'm sure that if someone, found my old Twitter account and researched my name and Austin Carr, when they first signed him, I really thought he was going to be a great value Julius Edelman. I really thought he was going to be, the Dollar General brand Danny Amendola. I really did. He had a really good preseason for them.
Dollar General.
Yeah, that brand. You see the yellow DG on the box. Your wife just was desperate and just grabbed the first thing she saw on her way home. I get it. So yeah, I really thought, from watching him in preseason, like, man, this guy gets open. Oh, he's doing a great job with these zig routes. Oh, he's doing, these nice little I just thought he was going to be Lance Moore. I did. I'll be completely honest and say, they kept him on the roster the whole year, didn't give him any playing time. Now he's going to come year 2 and have that Willie Snead, Lance Moore type of first season out on the field, because that's the same thing they did with those two guys. And then it just never happened. And now I'm just trying to figure out why is he still here? So
why is he still here? I'll keep my answer brief. I think it's two things. One, I think Sean Payton thinks he's a smart player. So he's one of those dudes who probably never runs the wrong route. Probably always in the right place. But at the same time, he's not good enough to beat man coverage. And I forgot the second reason, but I
not good.
Maybe not good enough player, right? Yeah. I mean, I think he's just maybe Bill Belichick dropped the line and Sean and said, you need to keep this guy around. But I will say this. So I remember my second reason. I'm with you. Like that preseason, he lit it up now. Like for real. Like he was like looking like he was playing against high school players. But when the Patriots released him, I was like, why?
Why?
Because you love these dudes now. You love these little slot wide receivers who can run 3-yard routes and get open. Why did you release him? I was like, something ain't right. And
he was super productive.
Something
in the preseason, I should say.
Right. Something was wrong when they released him. I was like, nah, man. Nah. Something ain't right here. So, but hey, look, sometimes it just happens, right? The Taysom Hill situation. He didn't end up being what people thought he was something totally different, but you never know. But I digress, man. All right, we got 3 questions from Dylan. Any thoughts on the battle for the third running back? If you have to make a prediction, who do you think wins that spot?
This is another good question that I've thought about.
I know who you're going for. Go ahead and go. Just mention your boy.
I honestly don't think he's on the roster right now.
Really? I mean, okay, it's early, right? But for real, like you don't think you
No, I'm out of everybody that's there. I'm gonna say Darryl Washington just because what he brings on special teams, and
fair?
I liked what I saw with him in the Carolina game, that last game of the year. Man, that dude runs hard, and he plays all the core special teams. So I think he has the inside track. But even with that being said, he barely played last year. It was the Kamara Ingram show, you know. But we did see Boston Scott make the roster, and then 2 days before the season, a guy that was cut gets brought back and knocks him off, and then you get the Mike G signing. So I don't know if the third running back is on the roster right now. I like Ozigbo. I like his skill set. He reminds me a little bit of Mark, I guess, with more splices of Pierre.
That's like you. I mean, you just named your 2 favorite NFL players of all time. You know, you invoking big names.
No, he have a very distinctive slashing running style, but
is it Mike Bellish or is it?
See, Mike Bell was just downhill, and if the hole
he was a one
open,
cut down,
just downhill. If the hole is open, sucks to be you on the other side when he comes through. But if that hole was there, he wasn't creating anything.
Nothing.
Nothing.
With the wrong cleats and everything,
man. Like, I know we're getting off the rails here, but every time you think of Mike Bell in that 2009, you just think of hard runs, big runs. And then you look at his yards per carry, and you're like, dude, he had 3.9 for the season.
Really?
Like, what?
I didn't think it was that low.
Yeah, I think it is. I remember it being something lower than I expected it to be.
Well, he started off that Detroit game that year with like 150 yards or something crazy. Like he had a crazy game that first game, and then maybe.
So that was what, 2009?
2010 season.
He had 172 carries for 654 yards for 3.8 yards per carry.
Man, what was his yardage the first game? Can you pull that up?
Let's see, game logs. All right. That was 2009. Mm-hmm. First game of the year against Detroit.
Yeah. Best half the first game.
28 carries for 143 yards. See? 5.11.
I remember that game. I was just like, man, this dude. But that, I mean, listen, you got Carl Nicks, Goodwin, Jyree on the inside. Just the holes he were running through were just ridiculous. Like,
So after week 4, which was the Miami game when he had 12 for 80, including that big run, his remaining remaining 11 games, he only had one game over 3.8 yards per carry. It was 2.8, 3.4, 3.7, 3.8, 2.13, 2.86, and 1.65.
It's the cleats, man. It's got to be the cleats. It's got to be the cleats.
And this is the guy that Sean goes to on the goal line. Man, even get this dude off my team. Okay,
man, we are way off the rails right now.
But so I'm once again back to the original question. I think Darryl Washington would be the guy right now. I would like to see them give Ozigbo an opportunity to make the team, but part of me feels that number 3 running back is still not on the Saints roster yet.
Yeah, I think I just mirror your thoughts. I think Dwayne Washington has the probably inside track on just because he's a special teams guy and he had a decent showing against the Carolina Panthers in that game that didn't matter. But I'm in the Matt. I think Matt Hayes, is that the other guy that they signed? So he's the guy that they brought in. He's a
And
third.
Buck Allen.
Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Yeah, so got some competition there, but Buck Allen's a vet. I don't know if he's a special teams guy though, so I would have to check into that. But I don't have any predictions right now. It's way too early, and you won't be able to tell running backs do until probably can't even tell with preseason. It's hard because it's just one of those positions where it's an attrition position where you kind of got to see how guys play throughout the whole game to kind of get a gauge on that position. So, all right, Dylan, the next question from you. It's the last question that you had out of 3. I'm definitely not touching this question. This is all Ian Howard. And you want to you got the question in front of you. I might just let you read it because I'm just sitting here like, man, okay, I got it. If P-Rob doesn't overtake PJ Williams, do you think it would be better to shop him around or would you prefer to keep him for depth? This is a really good question. Ian has spoken about it. He has an opinion on it. I'm going to let my man be great.
I think it's a really good question.
It is.
It all depends, I think, on the cap. I think it all depends on the cap. If it doesn't make sense to move P-Rob from a financial standpoint, then I don't do it. But if I'm going to take if I'm not going to take a cap hit, if the team that trades for him just gets him for the $5 million per year and there's no penalty to the Saints and you're giving me a 4th or 5th round pick because you need a corner and because, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is playing at a high level, in camp going into preseason, if he doesn't overtake PJ, I do think that's a guy that would be on the trade block. But then again, there's not too many backup cornerbacks on this team. If Lattimore or Eli go down, I sure as hell don't want to see Crawley back out there. So it all depends on the value. It all depends on his cap and how that works if he was to be traded. But I think that is an ace that the Saints are holding in case they need to use it. And I could see them making a move. You don't have too many $5 million 4th cornerbacks on teams in the NFL. You rarely see that.
Yeah, I think that last point is strong. Number 4 cornerback making $5 million a year. You got to think about resources. With that said, it would take Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being out of his mind, absolutely out of his mind for me to think about doing that. Because, and even then, right, is like he's still a safety. He's not a slot cornerback. So, you are one injury away from having a safety play slot cornerback if you trade him away. Right?
So my counter to that would be he's more similar to KV than he is to Von Bell, meaning in college he has more snaps in the slot than he does at either safety position.
I agree. And KV was never a dominant, really great slot defender here. He had moments, but he never was like someone who you didn't ever think about upgrading at the slot. I think
for sure.
Yeah. So my thing is, today, P-Rob is the best cover slot player on this team. Until I see different, right? He was like a top 3 slot corner in the NFL a year before. Last year, he was the best corner on the team when he got hurt. The last 2 practices, he's had 2 interceptions. I'm just not trying. I'm not in the year where you're trying to win the Super Bowl. Where do you go? What is that 4th or 5th round pick really? What's the value of that versus having a good player who's won a Super Bowl, who's a veteran, who can play outside cornerback in a pinch if you absolutely need him to, and you don't have a good backup outside corner. Like, I'm keeping him on my team. And if PJ's better, then he's riding the pine until an injury happens. And injuries are going to happen. One of the cornerbacks are going to get hurt, whether it's one of the two starters or one of the slot guys. And then you're going to be looking at that depth. Glad that you got it, right? And if, you got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson in a role where he, has a package and he's comfortable there, then you don't have to take him out of that role. You can keep him in there and put one of the other guys in the position where the guy gets hurt. So just personally, I don't think the draft pick compensation will be high. Now, if you get a third, then, you start to maybe think about it. Not maybe that's it's just easy do, but I don't think, no one's going to get more than that for a backup corner, someone who's not your starter. So I'm saying no. I understand the logic behind that thought process, though, and I think it's a lot of validity there. I don't think it's an easy answer. I think, smart people disagree on it, and there's no right answer. But personally, Super Bowl window's wide open. He's not a huge cap hit guy. He's talented. I'm keeping him on my team.
And it's really a tough one because I would feel the same way if it goes the other way. Let's say P-Rob beats out PJ and PJ's stuck on this 1-year deal. If he doesn't get that DUI, I think he's gone. So if P-Rob beats him out, am I then looking to move PJ? Am I then looking to try to get something back, knowing that there's a great chance he's probably not going to resign the year following? It's a really tough situation, and I think Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is going to be that biggest domino piece. If they feel they need to get him on the field, even if it's just a trial for a season before they can let Von Bell walk and not offer him a contract, I feel that they are going to try to find an excuse to play him like they did KV's first season. And I know KV, played several positions his rookie year. And then by year 2, they were trying to make him an every down safety. And that didn't work as they expected. But I felt they wanted to get his feet wet before making that transition into this is your one position. And I could see something like that happening with Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, if they forcing him on the field, that means he's just looking really good, and that's a good thing for the team. So you hope that's the case. So I'm with you on that. But yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's a lot of nuance to the discussion there. But man, my phone, did your phone just go? Did you get, man, I'm sorry, my heart just dropped. Clay tore his ACL, man.
Did he really?
Yeah, man.
And he went out there, tried to run and play on it. Oh man,
Tore his ACL, man. That sucks, man. That sucks. All right, moving on to the last question. Tony, my man Tony, with the first question and the last, Tony. I will not say that you are the alpha and the omega, though. Not going there, man. I won't put that much pressure on you. Oh, I think we kind of already touched on this question, but I'll read it out anyway. How do you feel about the interior pass rush and also the pass rush in general this year with our roster, especially at the start of the year with our rankings, even though when he returns will probably be a while before he picks up where he left off? I'll take this one. Again, there's some concern there. You hope that Davenport is a dog, right? You just that's your hope, because he alleviates a lot of that. I think Onyemata is a better interior pass rusher than a lot of people know. He's not good as Rankins, but numerically he was kind of close to him. It's weird. Like when you look at it on film, he's not as nearly as good as pass rusher as Rankins, in my opinion. But statistically, he has some of the same numbers, and I'll pull him up when Ian starts to give his answer. So they signed Mario Edwards. He's gonna rush from the interior. He'll be able to get you some pressure there, maybe win one-on-one every once in a while. But you got 3 other guys who can, win one-on-one. One guy who's flat out dominant. Another guy who could be, whatever the heck he wants to be in this league. And a third guy who's a good interior pass rusher. So I don't think it's a red flag. I think the Saints, they probably feel as well as they can about it. But it's something to keep an eye on. Like, I'm not just saying, like, if Rankins was back this year, I would be like, oh man, we just need a backup defensive end for Okafor. But you got, you would think that they're going to be better this year with Davenport taking a step forward. But without that, you just have to have that question. So you have to see it. I will not believe anything that happens in training camp. Unless I hear Davenport consistently dominating Armstead, which I don't know if I'll be more worried about Armstead or happy about Davenport, but that's probably not going to happen. So, yeah, you definitely are a little bit worried about the interior pass rush and the pass rush as a whole, but I don't think it's a red flag yet.
And prior to last season, Malcolm Brown was like a 3-sack a season type of a guy. And as you mentioned, if you're expecting Onyemata to take a slight step up, maybe he goes from, 4.5 sacks to 6.5 sacks or something like that. But I think you mentioned the name earlier and you just mentioned the name again. This D-line will be as successful as Marcus Davenport allows it to be.
Yeah.
You can already book Cam for his 12 to 13 sacks a year. That's who he is now. That's not going to change. If Davenport gets you 8 to 10, that's where you really pick up some steam. We saw him create loads of pressure and be a full count slow off the ball. So when he hurt his toe in that Minnesota game, he was just starting to take off. Then he made a play in that Atlanta game, I think, when he just stuck his arm over the left tackle and just yanked, Matt Ryan down. So
yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, that was wild. So his development will determine the success of this D-line. And I really do believe that, because I do feel they want to have 2 bookend DNs that are playing 85 to 95% of the snaps. Like how Cam plays damn near every snap. I think they want Davenport to play damn near every snap as well.
Yeah. I just went and looked at the pressures, and I thought that was a little bit closer. So I thought Onyemata had like within 5 pressures of Rankins, but it was 9. So Rankins had 46 pressures. Onyemata had 37. Let me just, 8 hits. No, Rankins had 8 sacks. Onyemata had 5. Rankins had 6 hits. Onyemata had 1. In total hurries, Rankins had 32 and Onyemata had 31. So, I mean, pressures, he had 9 more pressures than him, so the gap was a little bit bigger than I thought. But, again, it just kind of goes to show. And but look, though, on pass rushing snaps, Rankins had 450 pass rushing snaps and Onyemata had 475. So Rankins did more he had 9 more pressures on 25 fewer snaps. So again, like on the film, you would obviously tell that Rankins is a better player. But I think Onyemata can, again, like I said, I think he can step into that role. You would like to think that he gets better because he just gets better every year and he's still new to football. So that's a good thing. And just while I got these stats up, Okafor had 42 pressures. So that's like, that's a lot of pressures lost. So, again, you're not panicking about the pass rush, but you are paying attention to what is going to be with just the Rankins injury and the loss of Alex Okafor.
For sure. And I think Onyemata has to cut down on the penalties. I think he probably would have 2 to 3 more hits if he didn't have the rushing the passer calls on like 3 in one game. So he's definitely getting to the QB, just about how responsible he's going to be. And if he's going to cause you 15 yards, I felt like he was fined several times last year. So
yeah, he has moments where he looks like he's got some strength that we as humans haven't figured out yet. Like, he just looks like a ridiculously strong player at times. So you just want to see more of that. So, all right, well, I think that's it, man.
Yeah, I think so.
7 questions. We went for about 45 minutes. So I think that's a good pod, man. So we are going to be back next week. The voiceless one will hopefully not. I was telling Ian I had my fraternity brothers in town, and when your voice is recovering, it's probably not a good idea to have a 15-year reunion, which makes me sound old. But yeah, so I won't have anyone talking to me all weekend. I'm gonna tell my wife to leave me alone.
But in the meantime, I was gonna say good luck with that.
It will not work.
But in the meantime, man, make sure you let your friends, other Saints fans, know about the work we're putting into the Patreon page. We're gonna keep doing it throughout. I got some big plans. Kevin was running some ideas by me. I was just nodding my head in agreement, like, yeah, let's do it. Sure, those topics are phenomenal. So we're gonna definitely try to keep it up. But please pass the word for people to join our Patreon and keep supporting us. And we're gonna just keep pumping out as much content as possible.
Yep. No more voiceless one missing weeks because of he can't talk. And hey, guys, and one more, right now we have a 3-week series that we're going to do. I'm not going to tell you what it is because that would spoil it. But you guys get to choose if you want us to talk about something. If there's a series you want us to do or just a 1-week thing, let us know. We're still kind of open for the other 3 weeks. Got some ideas, but not settled on them. So if there's something that you guys want us to talk about, or it's like something you want us to do a series, film study or something like that, let us know. We'll do it. This is power run by the people. It's a democratic institution. So the highest vote count wins. With that said, for the wonderful bearded Ian Howard, I'm the non-bearded one because I cut it off because I had my beard for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks. And I just caved in, man. I was like, I'm just cutting this thing off, man. So we got the bearded one and the non-bearded one. So that's our new nickname. So thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next week. Get your topics in. Send these questions. Hit me up on Twitter. Send me a direct message. Send me a direct message on Patreon. Discord too, if you want to kind of interact with me directly. With that said, we out.